There is plenty of history and stories within any cemetery, but that's especially true for one located in Price Hill. There's a grave of a court jester who performed all over the world.
So how did this court jester end up in Cincinnati? That is today's Cincinnati Curiosity.
It goes without saying that any cemetery will contain a lot of history. That's most certainly true of Cincinnati's Judah Toro Cemetery in Price Hill. But Judah Toro, unlike any other cemetery in Cincinnati, can boast the grave of an actual court jester. There must be a story, and indeed there is. The jester's name was Hayeti Hasid, and he was born in 1852 in Thessaloniki, then part of the Ottoman Empire. Always small, the boy stopped growing altogether when he was around 5 years old. For the rest of his life, he stood only around 30 inches tall. Hayeti developed a talent for making people laugh through a repertoire of dancing, singing, and sleight-of-hand tricks. He had a remarkable skill for languages, eventually gaining fluency in Arabic, French, German, Greek, Italian, Spanish, and Turkish. At the age of 20, Hayeti's reputation caught the attention of the Ottoman Sultan, Abdul Hamid II, who brought him to the royal palace in Istanbul, where he entertained the court for some years. After serving at court, Hayeti was consigned to the harem, where he entertained the Sultan's many children, becoming, as it were, sort of an Ottoman Uncle Al. Tiring of the kiddie fair, Hayeti made his way to Paris and joined the troupe of the Folies Bergère, where he was discovered by British entertainment impresario Lloyd Forsyth, and was promptly named mayor of Forsyth's Tiny Town Revue. Whether as mayor of Tiny Town or ringmaster of the Lilliputian Circus, Hayeti traveled the world. He was billed as the Turkish Tom Thumb or Pasha Hayeti Hasid, Pasha being the rough Ottoman equivalent to a knighthood. Hayeti and his revue performed in Australia and New Zealand as well as in most European countries. Eventually, the years of performing with a large group paled, and Hayeti went solo. There wasn't much to his act. He was usually booked as a sideshow oddity and did little more than sit and be stared at. Hayeti's travels eventually brought him to Cincinnati's Chester Park. He made $42 a week, pretty much by just sitting in his chair, selling postcards of himself. While in Cincinnati, Hayeti was reunited with a friend from childhood, Leon Ben Mayer. Hayeti slept in a crib outgrown by one of Ben Mayer's children. The Turkish Tom Thumb died here in Cincinnati in 1919, and a group of friends in the local immigrant community arranged for his funeral and burial.
Joining me now to chat more about the court jester is Greg Hand, the man behind Cincinnati Curiosities. Greg, good morning to you. So why was this court jester sent out of the Sultan's court to become a royal babysitter?
Well, the Sultan, and decidedly so, was very suspicious of everybody at court. He saw plots against him everywhere, and guess what? They were all real. Eventually, he was deposed, and so he had very short stays in the court. If you got into the court, you were there for just a little bit, and then he shoved you out. It's a sign that he really liked this guy, that he didn't send him into exile. He just moved him down to another room in the harem.
Okay, so after ending up traveling the world, how did Hasid end up in Cincinnati?
Now, one of the things that people forget about this time period is that Cincinnati was one of the 10 largest cities in the United States. And so if you were in show business, you had to come to Cincinnati. And the city was growing by leaps and bounds, and so it's no surprise that when Hasid came to Cincinnati, he discovered a childhood friend from back in Greece.
Wow, go figure.
Yes.
It is a Cincinnati thing for sure.
Indeed.
So speaking of curiosities, how does an Ottoman Turk come to be buried in a Jewish cemetery?
The Ottomans indeed were a large Islamic empire, and Islam was the state religion, but they were extremely tolerant of other religions, and in fact, Thessaloniki which is where our court jester came from, was known at the time as the cradle of Israel. There were so many Jewish citizens of the Ottoman Empire living in that city. And so he was, in fact, Jewish and was a practicing Jew his entire life and helped actually found that cemetery.
Wow. Well, fascinating as always, Greg. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Always a pleasure.